Welcome to my channel. If you've enjoyed watching one or two of our videos and haven't subscribed yet, click that subscribe button now for more captivating stories like this. Don't miss a single story.
The story begins by revealing that 5,000 years ago, during the Age of Despair, humanity teetered on the edge of extinction. To prevent the collapse of the world, four great heroes emerged to confront Aros, the genesis of evil. Among these heroes was Luna, the elven archmage, also known as the Poet of the Stars. Another was Du, the dwarven master-smith, referred to as the divine blacksmith. The third hero, Aeon, was a beastman warrior, and the wise king, Lindes, who was also a dragon. 5,000 years ago, we witnessed the chaos of the battlefield, where the ground is strewn with countless corpses. We hear Lindes urging a man named Kyle to go on without them. However, Kyle insists they should not speak. Lindes continues, urging Kyle to take their dragon heart and push forward. Kyle replies that he intends to save them and tells them to conserve their energy, but Lindes asserts that it's too late for them. Kyle asks them to stop talking, as he needs to concentrate on healing. In a surprising turn, Lindes reaches into their chest and pulls out their heart, asking Kyle if he remembers their first meeting and their vow to save the world. Kyle bites his lip, calling Lindes a stupid lizard. Lindes apologizes for leaving everything to Kyle as their eyes grow heavy. With their final breath, Lindes passes away. Kyle then begins to recite the names of the four heroes as he reaches for the dragon heart. He starts to imbue it with aura, transforming it as he thanks all the heroes for their presence. Forcefully injecting it into his body, a powerful aura radiates across the battlefield, visible from miles away. Kyle vows that no matter what happens, even if his body burns to ashes, he will keep fighting to honor his friends' memories. His sword begins to glow with aura, and we learn that this is Kyle, the hero of the beginning. He charges into battle, shouting at Aros and leaping toward him for a powerful attack. The scene shifts to a woman recounting the night when the sky echoed with the great sound of explosions. Thanks to the sacrifice of the wise King Lindes, Aros, the genesis of evil, was driven away. Suddenly, a baby cries. A man asks the woman, named Reina, why she is telling the same story for the 100th time. She explains that Leo loves this book the most. We see a little baby in a crib as she prepares to read him, The Heroes of the Beginning, once again. As she reads, the baby starts babbling. She mistakes it for enjoyment, unaware he is actually frustrated that she won't stop reading. Reina continues the tale of 5,000 years ago. The baby questions why she is recounting it, noting that he was the one who defeated Aros and wonders why he is the only one omitted from history. The narrative then shifts to a later time at the Royal School of Dian, where a teacher instructs the students to pay attention. He reminds them that they are in the Age of Heroes, noting that it has been 5,000 years since the hero record first appeared in their world. The lower world has undergone many changes since then. For example, the Royal School of Dian has been chosen to host this year's Lumen entrance examination. The teacher expresses confidence that some among them possess the potential to become heroes who will one day have their names inscribed in the hero record. He's super excited until he hears a student snoring, prompting him to tell the student to wake up. This student is none other than Leo. The teacher remarks to Leo that since he seems to know the course material well enough to fall asleep during lectures, he will pose a question: what ritual was required 5,000 years ago to be regarded as a hero? Leo stands up, asserting that if someone makes a name for themselves, people will worship them on their own. We are formally introduced to him as Leo PLO from the House of PLO. The teacher then asks if anyone else is willing to answer. A student quickly raises his hand and explains that in ancient times, there was no way to gain recognition from the gods, so only holy rituals were used to select heroes. He cites the ritual of blood as a prime example. The teacher and the other students applaud, acknowledging Gvan, the greatest magic genius of their kingdom, who hails from the House of Trotun. The teacher expresses high hopes for Gvan in the upcoming Lumen exam, while Gulen laughs at Leo, believing he has been upstaged. Meanwhile, Leo reads his book, remarking that meeting gods was incredibly easy and didn't require a holy ritual. The book discusses a miracle gifted by the gods to the lower world to honor the great heroes who faced Aros, which is the hero record that his mother often read to him. He closes the book, pondering why he is treated as if he doesn't exist. Later in class, students rush to the windows, excitedly announcing the arrival of the emblem of the Zinger Clan. They watch as a group parades down the halls, fawning over a lady named Celia Zinger. An announcement over the intercom instructs all students to gather in the auditorium for an assembly as the Zinger clan visits the school. Gulen asks Leo if he plans to try to get noticed by the Zingers, doubting they would care about him at all. Leo replies that he's not interested in such things and is going straight home. Gulen, feeling embarrassed, insists he's not interested either and is merely going to check out Celia as a fellow rival. Some time later, we see Leo training with a bow staff in hand and a wooden sword on the floor. After finishing his session, he reflects that while diligent training is part of it, his current body is far better than the one he had in his previous life. As he heads outside into the courtyard, a woman asks what he's so deep in thought about, preparing to launch a surprise attack from the side. Leo manages to block it and steps back, incredulous that she would ambush him like that. She explains that it's been a while since their last spar and insists that his talent cannot be lackluster for Lumen, emphasizing that this is his final test. Raising her sword, she swings down, and he successfully blocks her strike. She suggests that she could put more power into it. They begin trading blows in the middle of the courtyard, with Leo commenting that she is showing him too much tough love. We are introduced to his mother, Reina, who counters that while he calls it tough love, he is clearly blocking everything she throws at him. As she prepares for an even stronger attack, she quickly realizes she is putting too much force behind it. As the sword comes straight toward Leo's head, she begins to panic, worrying about what will happen if he can't dodge it. However, he effortlessly sidesteps the blade, allowing it to graze his hair. Spotting his opportunity, he lunges forward with a counterattack, much to her surprise as she finds herself on the floor. Concerned, he asks if she's okay, but she wonders how far his talents truly extend. She inquires if he is still determined to attend Lumen, the Human Hero Academy, believing it might be the only place that holds records of him as a hero. Leo expresses his desire to uncover why his name isn't listed anywhere. His mother reminds him that members of the Zinger Clan are visiting Dilan and will be staying at their mansion. Leo asks why they are staying there, and she explains that he should get to know them. She plans to ask their vice-patriarch, Zeiss, if he would consider teaching Leo a technique, which could help him become strong enough to gain admission to Lumen next year. Leo, however, seems reluctant about the hassle of learning the technique and smirks while sighing, insisting that he intends to be admitted this year instead. A carriage then arrives at the estate, and a woman asks why her uncle wants to stay there. Stepping out of the carriage, we are introduced to Celia Zinger, known as the Sword Princess. She expresses her desire to focus on the Lumen entrance exam and questions why they came to such a small, remote family. Zeiss calls out to her, asking if she's not curious about Leo since he doesn't seem to have any interest in their clan. Celia dismisses him, noting that he still can't even use AA yet, implying he can't be that impressive. Zeiss laughs, suggesting she doesn't quite understand. Later that evening, they meet Reina and Zabos, who express their honor at having the Zingers stay over. We are also introduced to Leo's father, Aid, the patriarch of the House of PLO. Zeiss then tells Celia that she should show them respect. She places her hand over her chest and offers a formal introduction, thanking them for hosting them for the week. Reina replies that it's nice to meet her, thinking that Celia resembles her father and brother. Celia soon realizes that Reina has black hair and red eyes, asking if she is of their lineage as well. Zeiss informs her that Reina is actually her aunt, which surprises her. As their luggage is carried to the room, Zeiss talks to Reina about their recent visit to the Royal School of Dilan, describing the chaos of students rushing to see them. He notes that Leo seemed to have gone home, showing no interest at all. Reina laughs, commenting that it must be quite a blow to the pride of the Zingers, apologizing if her son appears disrespectful and explaining that he is only focused on training. Zeiss then asks what kind of kid Leo is, and Reina responds that he possesses unbelievable talent. Zeiss questions whether she genuinely believes Leo is worthy enough to inherit the flames of deserting Earth. Reina asserts that she's not merely saying this because he's her son, he truly is worthy. As we see Leo training with Celia, Zeiss remarks that if Celia is willing to make such a statement, he is genuinely interested. However, he insists on testing Leo himself to verify her claims. Meanwhile, we catch a glimpse of Leo pushing Celia back during their training. A flashback reveals Leo meditating in the training area, with AA floating around his wrist. He opens his eyes and looks down, stating that it's about time, he now has a vessel capable of holding everything. He reflects on why he hadn't learned aura yet, accepting it would cause his body to specialize to match that aura, and he would lose the chance to accumulate mana and soul energy. In his past life, if he could have fully controlled that power and presence, he wouldn't have left behind a seedling of disaster. He thinks that first comes aura, but before he can finish his thought, Celia approaches him, asking if he is Leo. He turns around, confused, and sees her standing there with pride. She comments that he appears to have a decent grasp of the basics and offers to guide him in swordsmanship, hoping to earn some approval from her aunt. Leo inquires who she is, and she introduces herself as Celia, saying the world calls her the Sword Princess. He asks if that's really the case and thanks her for considering him, but he insists that he has no intention of receiving guidance from someone of lesser skill. Celia, taken aback, asks if he is really claiming to be stronger than her. He concedes that in a fight to the death, she would likely be stronger since he can't use aura, but sparring with just swordsmanship is another matter. Her eyes narrow with anger as she turns to the practice swords, grabbing one off the wall. She challenges him to spar, stating that if he believes he will surpass her once he learns aura, she will teach him the harshness of reality. If she wins, he will become her servant. Leo asks what he will get if he wins, and she points her sword at him, considering, before declaring that she will become his servant instead. He picks up his sword from the floor, eager to start immediately, and leaps forward, swinging at her. Celia blocks his attack and acknowledges that his speed is decent but insists it won't be enough to take her down. Leo then raises his hands for an overhead strike, prompting her to wonder about his strength as she is forced to distance herself. He crashes into the ground, shattering it, and doesn't give her a moment to recover, launching another attack. Celia realizes she can't dodge as he swings toward her head, and they hear a clash. He questions why she is using aura, thinking they were supposed to be sparring with just swordsmanship. Celia explains it was merely a reflex. He dismisses her concern, confident he will win regardless. She retorts that controlling aura is a vast difference, akin to heaven and earth. In response, he removes the weighted bracelet from his wrist and throws it to the ground, asking if she wants to test it. Celia can't believe he was using a weighted bracelet the entire time. With a smirk, Leo dashes forward again, this time completely shattering her aura armor. As she begins to lose consciousness, she asks how someone like him can exist, calling him a crazy bastard for his overwhelming strength. We then see Reina and Zeiss walking through the courtyard. Reina spots Leo and calls him over to introduce himself to a guest staying at their household. Leo approaches and bows his head to Zeiss, who informs him, extending his hand for a shake, that he is his uncle. After they shake hands, Reina asks if Leo has met Celia yet. When Leo thinks about it, he turns to see her being carried out on a stretcher, with guards shouting her name and urging to get her to the infirmary. Zeiss inquires what happened, and one of the guards begins to explain. Zeiss can't believe Leo defeated Celia without having learned aura and tells him that's quite impressive. Leo responds that she underestimated him. Zeiss then mentions something about a bet, asking for clarification. Leo explains that the loser was to become the winner's servant, and that Celia will be his maid for the entire upcoming week. Zeiss emphasizes the importance of keeping one's word but reminds Leo that she is from the Zinger family, and he cannot order her to do maid work. He hopes Leo will reconsider the promise and instead accept something as a reward. Leo firmly refuses, stating that this was a wager between him and Celia, and as long as she retains the Zinger name, she must take responsibility. Zeiss asks if Leo truly wants to proceed with this, even though he is offering him the Zinger breathing method. Leo believes that preventing Celia from being humiliated holds no value in terms of learning. Zeiss responds by stating that he is declaring Leo will use the direct lineage of the Zingers as a servant and that the Zinger aura method is worthless. Leo expresses his satisfaction in hearing this. Zeiss then questions whether Leo thinks such a declaration is disrespectful. Leo asserts that he has no intention of insulting the Zingers. He explains that if Zeiss intended to reward him for defeating Celia by teaching him the breathing method, he would gladly accept. However, since it was framed as a gift to alleviate her loss, Zeiss believes that if Celia hadn't let her guard down, she wouldn't have lost to him. Leo adds that even if she had fought earnestly, he still would have won. Zeiss smiles, finding Leo to be an interesting child and wishing someone like him were part of his family. He instructs a guard to send Celia to the maid's quarters. Calling out to Leo, he tells him that in an unofficial capacity, he can comfortably call him uncle, placing a hand on his shoulder. As Leo walks away, Zeiss turns to Reina, mentioning that he thought she wanted him to teach Leo their breathing technique. He then states his intention to ask their older brother to convince him to teach Leo the phoenix breath technique instead. The scene shifts to a bedroom, where we see Celia's flushed face. She declares that she is the maid in charge of him for the next week, now fully dressed and looking quite embarrassed. Leo tells her that the outfit suits her, admitting he never imagined she would look so good in maid's clothes since she usually wears something fancy. Celia acknowledges her beauty but adds that if he puts it that way, she can't help but feel annoyed. He clarifies that he didn't mean to upset her and mentions having a friend who praises beauty excessively, suggesting that his habits may have rubbed off on him. We then hear the voice of Dueno, proclaiming that the beauty of the Eternal is unparalleled, and if peace returns to the world, he will spend his life spreading beauty to everyone. Celia sighs, commenting on how Dueno has a cool friend who knows how to appreciate and praise beauty. She notes that while Leo downplays it, Dueno's honesty can be a bit much, especially since Lines is more beautiful than anyone and Luna, for the sake of art, once begged them to pose as nude models, which resulted in them beating him up. Celia wonders what Leo is reading, thinking it might be a training book. He tells her it's just a book he read a lot in his youth, The Great Hero at the beginning. She recalls having read it frequently when she was 5 and questions why he's reading a children's book. Curiously, she walks over to his bookshelf and observes that he seems to really like The Great Hero of the beginning. She notes that any average researcher of The Great Hero would likely be impressed by how neatly he organizes everything, but she notices an unusual number of books about Kyle. Leo explains that among all the deeds of the great heroes, many accomplishments are difficult to attribute to specific individuals, and he believes those achievements are likely his. Celia challenges this, asserting that Kyle is merely a scammer trying to claim the hero's accomplishments. Leo double-checks if she's referring to Kyle, and she confirms that's the general consensus, admitting she feels the same way. Leo is astonished that people think so poorly of him and suggests they go eat breakfast and then train. Celia expresses a desire to train with him, claiming she wants to uncover the truth behind his strength. Leo warns her it may be hard for her to keep up, asking if she will be okay. She becomes irritated, reminding him that she is asserting herself. We then see her on the ground, and Leo explains that when her stamina reaches its limit, her reaction speed slows, creating gaps in her movements, just like what happened now. She questions why he would push his body like this, asking if it's genuinely helpful for training. Leo responds that young people today are weaker compared to the past, and training techniques have become very challenging. He explains that aura allows one to train their body, and if the body is weak, it's pointless. Celia stands up, trembling, and asks what he means by weak. As she starts to vomit, she points her sword at him, declaring she's ready and demanding he not underestimate her. She charges directly at him, but Leo swings his sword downward, knocking hers from her hand and causing her to fall back. Sliding across the ground, she wonders why she can't win. He approaches her, stating it must be tough and asking if she agrees. He instructs her to extend her hand and hands her the bracelet. Celia thanks him, but then collapses under its weight. He tells her that starting tomorrow, she will wear it while they train. The next day in the courtyard, we see Celia gasping for breath, telling him to stop, as Zeiss watches from the background. He remarks that this will be a beneficial experience for her before heading to Lumen. He comments that it might be good for her pride to be humbled at least once. Then, he calls out to Leo, who walks over to see what Zeiss wants. Zeiss mentions he's considering asking the Patriarch for permission to inherit the Phoenix breath. Leo is surprised and wonders if Zeiss is referring to the family's origin for the aura technique, recalling that only those recognized within the family can inherit it. Celia interjects, saying that her father won't easily accept it. Zeiss clarifies that's why there's a condition: Leo must pass the Lumen entrance exam. Celia warns him that the exam is a real fight, and since Leo can't use aura, it would be too dangerous for him. Leo smirks, acknowledging he lacks experience in actual combat, but points out that he has defeated Aros and many other demons in his past life. Zeiss asks for Leo's thoughts on the matter, and Leo admits he doesn't know how his parents will react. Zeiss assures him they've already agreed, and Leo responds that he's on board. Zeiss smirks, saying he expected Leo would want to take the exam all along. Leo then tells Celia it's time to continue, and she runs after him, questioning if he really thinks she won't be able to keep up. The scene shifts to a week later, where students are preparing for the Lumen entrance exam. They murmur about Celia's presence and wonder who is accompanying her. She asks Leo if he's nervous, and he replies that he isn't at all, suggesting she should fix her way of speaking since she just called him young master, forgetting that she is no longer his maid. Golivan then calls out to her, surprised to see Leo beside her. He comments on Leo's inability to handle aura and questions why he's there before quickly shifting his demeanor to ask Celia how she has been. Both Celia and Leo seem annoyed by his presence. Golivan introduces himself to Celia, stating that he greeted her the last time she was at school and claims to be Deland's greatest magic genius. Celia apologizes, stating she has no idea who he is, and grabs Leo's hand, indicating that they are leaving. As they walk away, someone else calls out Celia's name, and 2 white-haired students approach them. Celia appears surprised, while Leo wonders about her reaction. They are introduced as Abut and Chelsea from the Lumen family, who tell Celia that it's been a long time. Leo asks who they are, and she explains that they are the Lumen siblings from the same heroic lineage as the Lord of the Empire. She insists that they cannot lose to them in the exam, as the Zinger Clan must not be defeated by the Lumen family. Leo reminds her that he is from the PLO family. Abut greets her, mentioning it has been quite a while, and she agrees. He then questions who is next to her, and she introduces Leo as a noble from the kingdom of Delat. Abut dismisses him as a small fry, prompting Leo to glare at him. Abut then turns away, confidently stating that the top spot will surely be his, and tells his sister Chelsea that they should get going. Celia, feeling annoyed, declares that she's going to make sure to thoroughly crush them. A man then comments that it seems everyone has gathered, prompting everyone to look up at him. We are introduced to a professor at Lumen Academy named Alba Zarin, who has a striking resemblance to Gojo. Celia is surprised and asks if that's the sorcerer of man, while Leo questions who he is. She explains that he's a hero listed in the records. Leo concludes that he must be a hero of this era, then looks back up at Alba, noticing the mana in his left eye. Alba begins explaining that there are two types of trials, one-on-one combat and monster subjugation, with each person taking turns. He expresses his disdain for the method, finding it tedious, and states he doesn't want to deal with that boring approach. He then moves his coat aside to pull out a book, the Hero Record. Using magic, he transports the students to his world, revealing the first chapter titled, The Wild Forest. A giant magic circle appears beneath all the students, and Alba's hands glow as words fly out of the book. He declares that he detests inefficiency and decides to combine everything and proceed at once. As the students are blinded by the light, Leo recalls his teacher mentioning that the Hero Record isn't just a historical account, its true value lies in its ability to manifest the hero's world, which contains the experiences of past heroes. Moreover, by accessing these worlds, one can inherit the powers of previous heroes. Leo had thought it was some sort of hero training system, but when he opens his eyes, he finds himself in Alba's world, now introduced to the wild forest. Alba explains the rules. They simply need to survive, whether by joining forces or eliminating one another. Those who wish to forfeit can break the orb they are holding. Leo surveys the area while the others panic, noting that the place looks familiar. He starts walking forward, mentioning that this used to be an elven forest before it was tainted by the witch queen Salat. Some students express their fear, insisting this is too scary and wanting to return. They assume it's an illusion and dismiss it as pathetic, but Leo corrects them, stating that while this world is based on the examiner's memories, everything that happens here is real, and the dangers can genuinely kill someone. He suddenly senses a threat and sidesteps a surprise attack, an arrow striking the ground before him. Emerging from the brush is a familiar voice, Chelsea. She expresses her delight at the chance to eliminate someone from the PLO family. Leo introduces himself as a member of the PLO family, and Chelsea responds by releasing her aura, noting she saw him with Celia earlier. She then summons a weapon called the Wind Lu. Leo remarks that this spell definitely didn't exist in the past, but the basics seem unchanged as he prepares his blade. Chelsea laughs, observing that he still looks relaxed even with her right in front of him. She begins twirling her sickle in the air before launching it directly at Leo with incredible speed. He effortlessly swings his blade, striking the sickle and sending it crashing to the ground behind him. Chelsea asks how he managed to block it, noting she didn't sense any aura and wonders if he possesses an aura attribute that's hard to detect. Leo sighs, stating that her attack was too simple and suggests they join forces instead, since whoever survives the longest earns the most points. As a sorceress, she needs to pass at least one test. Chelsea laughs, explaining that, unfortunately, she is a battle mage. Since he called her last attack simple, she's eager to see how he handles this next one. Leo clarifies that he meant the wind magic was straightforward compared to its potential. She questions whether he really thinks he can lecture her on magic, considering she is a direct descendant of the Lumen family. She then launches another wind sickle along with a wind arrow, but suddenly loses sight of him, wondering what's happening since there's no trace of mana. Leo has already closed the gap, appearing barehanded and ready to unleash some serious moves. As her sickle floats through the air, Chelsea drops to her knees, coughing. He calmly tells her he's going to politely ask her to join forces with him once more. Meanwhile, outside, a screen begins to form, and everyone is buzzing with excitement to watch the exam. When the screen connects, it shows Chelsea tied to a tree, with Leo holding the ropes and starting a campfire, looking like a complete villain. Later that night, the fire is lit, and Chelsea wakes up to see it burning below her, beginning to panic. He asks if she's going to cooperate, and she defiantly replies that she doesn't need anyone but her brother. She attempts to cast another wind sickle, but a red magic circle on her wrist prevents her from using any magic. He informs her that it's a skill designed to restrict magic, but she insists it won't last long due to his limited mana. Chelsea claims she doesn't need magic to escape, but Leo wonders if she thinks he would let her focus on that while he tightens the ropes. She screams for him to wait, saying it's too hot as the fire starts to singe her skirt. He tells her to cooperate, and she reluctantly agrees. He demands she swear on her family name, and she yells that she will. Leo releases the rope, remarking that she's far too easy to manipulate. As she begins to fall off the pole, she closes her eyes in fear. When she opens them again, she finds him carrying her and saying it's nice to meet her. Back in the screening room, everyone watches the fights, and Alba comments that none of the competitors meet the standards needed to fight each other, calling them foolish. He notes that the only ones getting straight to the point are Celia and Abut. He believes the public's future will be bright as he sees both Leo and Chelsea teaming up. He observes Leo cutting down an ogre and concludes that while the fire stunt was immature, getting Chelsea to cooperate earns him a passing grade. Although he lacks the power and grace of Celia and Abut, Leo certainly proves to be an unexpected dark horse. A wind arrow pierces straight through the monster's chest as Leo swiftly decapitates it, causing it to collapse to the ground. Chelsea remarks that working alongside a knight makes things quite comfortable for her, then inquires about the aura he's using, noting she can't detect any mana from it. He replies that he doesn't know how to use aura, prompting her to ask how he managed that without it. Leo explains that, like anything, a solid foundation is crucial. As they're observed from the forest, Chelsea notices a presence, and Leo asks how important she thinks that foundation is. She glares at him and begins casting a spell called Windbreaker toward whatever is watching, eliminating it instantly. She quips that it's insolent for him to speak of magic in front of a Lumen. Leo states that she has power, but she used it incorrectly. Growing annoyed, Chelsea stops as Leo extends his hand, telling her not to take another step. He crouches down, and she comments that they look like mummies. He mentions having seen things that leave victims like that before, and now he understands the conditions for passing this test. Suddenly, his instincts kick in, and he grabs Chelsea, diving to the side to protect her. Nearby, some students discuss needing to eliminate Chelsea first, considering Leo a nobody. Among them is Gullivan, the third-rate villain, who orders his group to attack together as they charge at Leo. Leo's eyes narrow as he punches one of the attackers square in the face, knocking him out instantly. Both Chelsea and Gullivan are surprised, with Chelsea's heart racing. Leo instructs her to watch his back. Gullivan, frustrated, asks his lackeys what they're waiting for as they continue to charge. Leo begins to release his aura, and we see Gullivan fleeing in sheer panic while his companions engage Leo, calling him a coward. Gullivan insists he can't go out like this and needs to find another party as he runs away. Celia spots him and tells Abut that they should head in that direction. They both display shocked expressions upon finding Leo, Chelsea, and the other students, who are taking quick little naps. Chelsea joyfully runs to her brother, and Celia asks why they're together. Leo explains that he suggested they cooperate, to which Celia responds that there's no way that stubborn girl agreed to it. He smiles, stating that he convinced her in a very friendly way. As Leo picks up one of the students, Chelsea asks why he's helping them. He tells them they don't need to fight anymore, they can just beat this world together. They ask what he means by beat the world, and Leo points out the anomaly in the wild forest, indicating the corpses whose moisture seems to have been drained. He wonders where all the other monsters are. Celia reflects that he's right, it feels like the monsters are afraid of something. Leo concludes that a high-tier monster must have appeared, scaring off the others. Abut acknowledges this, recalling that Alba's first feat involved defeating a high-tier monster. Suddenly, a chill runs down their spines as they sense an ominous aura emanating from the woods in front of them, causing them all to freeze in fear. Leo declares that it has finally revealed itself, shifting back to Gullivan. He walks through the forest with his staff glowing, determined to ensure that Leo fails, no matter what it takes. Suddenly, he spots someone lying on the ground and kneels beside the corpse. Almost immediately, something begins dripping onto his staff, and he feels it on his head, paralyzed with fear. When he looks up, he sees a giant spider preparing to devour him. Meanwhile, at the academy, Alai observes the exam. Some students discuss the effort they've put in, but Alba informs them that around 500 have failed so far. Another teacher suggests that despite this, he needs to select about 100, just like other regions, as only 50 students remain in the test. Alba responds that he's willing to fail them all if they don't meet the standards, explaining that Headmaster Callan put him in charge of the test knowing he would do this. A true hero can only be found in difficult times, and although Leo may have noticed the anomaly in the forest, that doesn't guarantee he can overcome it. As they all start running toward something, some students complain that it's too dark to see anything, but Celia spots something ahead and tells them to prepare. She channels aura to the tip of her blade, illuminating the darkness to reveal Gullivan trapped inside the spider's mouth. She wonders what kind of nightmare they are witnessing. Abut concludes that this must be the source of everything and begins to channel a magic spell. Leo interrupts him, urging Gullivan to snap out of it and break the crystal. Annoyed but reluctantly complying, Gullivan breaks the crystal, teleporting himself out of the world and leaving a yellow trail from the spider's mouth. Abut resumes casting his spell, called Wind F, which starts to stab the monster repeatedly. However, it's not deep enough to kill it, and they all look surprised, except for Leo, who expected the outcome. He identifies the creature as the spider princess tarantula. One of the students leaps at it with his halberd, taunting it to eat this, only to be swatted away like a fly, landing in the bushes behind them. Celia declares her intent to finish it off in one blow, channeling aura onto her blade again and using an ability called prominence. She fires an aura beam directly through the spider princess's skull, but it instantly regenerates. She exclaims in disbelief, while Abut points out the stark difference in destructive power between a mage and a knight. He then casts another spell called Raw Fall, which swirls above him, careful to avoid catching the others in its path. When he unleashes it, it successfully wounds the tarantula all over, but he realizes it will take more than that. As he contemplates, the spider princess leaps into the air, launching an attack. In a panic, Chelsea casts Windbreaker to protect her brother, but he still sustains injuries, though they are not fatal. He regroups with the others, and the hero student from earlier remarks on the monster's incredible regeneration, noting it has already fully healed from Abut's attack. Leo explains that it's the daughter of Salat, the queen of Tartarus, and a monster within Erebus's army that devastated the elven forest. They are all taken aback upon hearing the name Tartarus. Leo explains that the mana in Alba's left eye indeed belonged to the fairy king. The tarantula ruled over the cursed wild forest, destroyed the elven forest, and even devoured the right hand of the fairy king who dared to confront her. He believed Luna had killed it, but it seems the fairy king's hand, which contained the ring of life, the source of infinite life energy, saved her. Abut asserts that if defeating the monster is the key to passing the test, he will do it. Celia questions his confidence as they both unleash combo attacks on the spider princess, but it consumes their strikes without even dodging, simply regenerating each time. Leo warns them that it's pointless, they will only exhaust their mana since the spider keeps healing through their damage due to the strange green aura surrounding it. Celia asks for his suggestion, and he tells them they need to work together. Abut refuses, insisting he will be the top scorer, and Celia claims the same. Leo warns that if they don't collaborate, they won't be able to defeat the monster, and all of them will fail. Hearing this, they both freeze. Abut argues that even if they team up, it will take time to set up a killing blow, and no one except the two of them can stall the creature long enough. Celia realizes he's right, and even Chelsea comes to the same conclusion. Leo volunteers to take on the task, but Celia protests that it's suicidal since he can't use aura. He assures them he can buy them 5 minutes. Abut questions what the plan will be if the attack fails. Turning back with a smile, Leo picks up the hero from earlier's halberd, stating he doesn't think that will happen, as fire and wind have always complemented each other. Celia and Abut exchange glances, acknowledging that he's correct. As the spider princess leaps at Leo, he sighs, remarking that this reminds him of old times. He has already severed a couple of the spider princess's legs and continues his onslaught, cutting them off one by one. He notes that it's been a while since he fought a monster from Tartarus and even manages to land a hit on its head. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for more content. Feel free to leave a comment down below sharing your thoughts or suggestions. If you want to stay updated on our latest uploads, click the notification bell icon. And hey, why not check out some of our other videos popping up on the screen right now? If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by liking, sharing, and subscribing. It really means a lot. Peace.